And welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're every week meeting interesting people and discussing topical issues. And this week, we welcome back last week's guest, Burns Hargis, for a return trip.
Yes, I put my tie on just in his honor again. We're really pleased he'd give us his time. He's got a lot to talk about, but this show we want to talk a little bit more about Burns the person.
Certainly he's learned something through the years that he can contribute.
Well, he has learned a lot and has done a lot successfully at every station.
Burns Hargis, the president at Oklahoma State University, today's guest on The Verdict.
In driving rain, blistering heat, and bitter cold, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, Chesapeake drills non-stop for natural gas on American soil. Chesapeake drills more new gas wells than anyone else, and from those wells collects the most drilling information and acquires more 3D seismic images, leveraging every efficiency to improve the odds of finding more natural gas every day with every well we drill. The better job we do of discovering bigger reserves of clean-burning American natural gas, the greater the prosperity of our nearby communities, our state, and our nation. And as long as there are more gas reserves to be found here in the U.S., we will never rest. Chesapeake. Natural gas wins the day.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce this week's guest.
Once again, somebody that you know well from just living here in Oklahoma, Burns Hargis, the 18th president of Oklahoma State University and the Oklahoma State system. Distinguished citizen of Oklahoma in many, many respects, banker, lawyer, civic leader, and now president. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Glad to have
Great
you.
to be with you all.
Would you ever think you'd be a university president?
No.
When you were a student,
not.
you didn't aspire.
And I guarantee you my professors didn't think so either. No, I got an accounting degree at Oklahoma State, and then I graduated John Marshall High School here in Oklahoma City, and then I got an accounting degree from Oklahoma State, and then a law degree at OU. And after the Army, I practiced law here for 28 years. Many of those years were cases with my dear friend and colleague, Kent Myers. And then I ran for governor in 1990, and unsuccessfully, I might add. And then ultimately got in the banking business with Bank of Oklahoma and was in the banking business for over 10 years as an actual employee of the bank. I'd been on the board for a number of years before that. And had a little television career. And then this opportunity manifested itself, and it was stunning. And the way it happened was that I was on the search. I was on the Board of Regents of Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. I was on the search committee for the previous president, David Smidley. And this time around, I went, I think one of those in a lifetime is plenty. Because in academics, they kind of, I think, measure you by the pound, the paper, you know. So when you're on a search committee for some academic position, you cannot imagine the paper you've got to get through. And so finally, the search committee came to me and said, would you have any interest in this job? And it really, I think, emanated, the whole idea emanated from Leland Gorley. Leland Gorley, the publisher of Friday, wrote a column that suggested that I be president of OSU. I think some people actually took that seriously. Not that they don't take Leland seriously all the time, but I think that's kind of got the buzz going, and then it just went down the road. The problem was that I have a sitting regent has to be off the board for a year before they can become an employee of the university. And so that created a complication. And I finally did resign in July of '07. The legislature actually decided to change that law to 6 months. And so I was able to take the office in March of '08.
Did you have any, you were in a great position as vice chairman of the Bank of Oklahoma, and things were going your way, they still are, but they were then. Did you have any reluctance about it?
Well, I had a lot of soul searching about whether or not I was qualified for this job. Ann and I had many long conversations about it, because with this stage of our lives, this kind of wasn't what we planned. But as it turned out, and I was asked the question directly by the faculty and student forum, what made me think I was qualified to be a university president? Good question. And I said, first I said, well, I've had as much qualification for that as I did to become a political expert on television, having lost a race for governor. But in any event, I got to thinking about it, and a modern university president today has to obviously manage a very large operation. This is a $1 billion operation. It has 5,000 employees. It's got 1,500 faculty. 32,000 students. I mean, it's a community. It's a big city, really. Not as big as your city, but there's a lot involved. It's also a very political environment. You know, Woodrow Wilson said when he ran for president of the United States, he'd been president of Princeton, which, by the way, is where our orange and black colors come from. And he, when asked by a reporter, why are you running for president of the United States, he said, to get out of politics. So it's a very political place, a university campus. You don't control the faculty. You have a lot of collaboration and consensus that has to be developed, and actually I've enjoyed that very much. The reputation that there's this natural animosity between administration and faculty, I have not found to be the case at all. And then you got to raise money. And I got to thinking about it, and I've done a lot of all those things in my career, and it would be hard to learn some of these skills in the classroom. So I went from saying, why me, or are you crazy, to maybe I've been preparing for this job all my life.
Well, it's a function, to some extent, I would think, looking at it from the outside, of leadership. And you've been in leadership positions continuously for many years, very effectively.
Well, you're kind to say that. I've had my share of flubs. But you know, I got active in things like that on campus when I was at OSU. I've told the story that we moved so many times that I really, growing up, I never really lived anywhere long enough to get involved very much. And so when I went to Oklahoma State, I pledged Sigma Nu fraternity. We don't have presidents, we have commanders. In the first week, the commander called me to his office, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to get kicked out already. I can't believe it. Well, I was stunned I got in the first place. And he said, we've met, the executive committee met, and you're going to run for freshman class officer. And I said, no, actually, I don't do that. I'm more of a follower, and I really am not interested in that. And he said, if you're interested in staying in this fraternity, you're going to run for class officer, which I did. And thanks to my pledge brothers and the campus, I was elected. One of the last elections I won, as I recall. And I then, it just began a course of involvement in the campus activities and just the life of the community that I followed the rest of my life. And it's really the passion that I have. And so that's why I tell our students, it's so important. I mean, what you learn in the classroom is critical. But what you learn outside that classroom is just as critical. You need to learn to get along with people, to work with different kinds of people, to build consensus around ideas. Be a good follower, be be a good leader. You combine that with a good academic experience, and you're going to be successful.
What leaders have you admired, and what traits would you like to pick up and exhibit while president in this position?
Well, the mayor of Oklahoma City.
That's my leader.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you attract success, and I congratulate you for
Well,
that.
I noticed you moved soon after I became
Well, I'm trying to
mayor.
replicate what you've done. My favorite president is Teddy Roosevelt. I have his portrait on my wall because I like the way he took on the powerful, but that he wanted to keep the economic engine and the global engine of the U.S. alive. So I liked him a lot. My son, I don't know if you've seen Night at the Museum, but he's a prominent role. He always says, "I'm Teddy Roosevelt, our 26th president." And my little grandson Preston brought the movie over, and we watched it. And he came into my office the next morning. He said, "Papa, look, Teddy Roosevelt, our 26th president." So he's at least got that one figured out. I don't want to leave out Peyton Oliver, my other grandchildren. And so that's one. Probably in modern day, Henry Bellman. I started with Henry. He's been like a father to me. He's got all the qualities that I would like to have and don't. I mean, he's not afraid to speak his mind. He's not afraid of what the fallout is. He's just very, very comfortable in his own skin.
What was your interaction
On top of
with
that,
him? What was the role?
well, I started out working in his campaigns.
Huh.
And I never did work for him, although he did put me in as chairman of the Department of Human Services. And I always said that Bellman did that to people who didn't give him enough money. So I worked all through the years. My brother was his legislative assistant for many years. And I still see him, and he's just the same guy he always was. And if you get his book, and I really highly recommend his book to you, which he wrote many years ago, but you can almost leave out all the politics, and you get all you want just from his experience of growing up in Oklahoma on a farm and a war hero. He was at Iwo Jima. I mean, he was a very decorated Marine. So there's many others, though. I mean, Lee Allen Smith, if you want to learn how to raise money, you just follow him around and just pick up what falls through his hands.
Or run away from him.
Yeah. No, I've learned so much from him. Ray Ackerman, it just goes on and on. John Nichols was a wonderful. I mean, he never formally mentored. I just admired him, and we've had so many people like that in Oklahoma City.
Well, let me jump in and get us to a break. We're visiting with Burns Hargis, president of Oklahoma State University, and I'll clear my throat and we'll be right back.
To be Chickasaw, you have strength, you have faith, and your family comes first.
I was diagnosed with FSGS, which is a progressive kidney disease that leads to kidney failure.
I believe that being Chickasaw makes me strong. It made me a strong mother for Melissa.
She told me that day, "Don't worry, I'll be there for you. I've got 2 kidneys, you can have 1.
They took me in first, and we just hugged each other, and I said, "Melissa, it's almost time. It's gonna be all right."
My mom has given me life twice, and how do you ever thank someone for giving you a second chance? Through those challenging times, my family and I knew that we were going to get through it, that we are a Chickasaw family, and that whatever obstacle may arise, together we will conquer it.
Home values are down in some states, but not in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's home values have increased 4.2% during the past 12 months. Unlike some states where home values have decreased as much as 20%. Good thing you're in Oklahoma. There may be real estate problems in some states, but there has never been a better time than now to buy or sell a home in Oklahoma. One of the most affordable states in the country, Oklahomans are buying and selling homes every day, and an Oklahoma realtor can show you how. Good thing you're in Oklahoma.
That land next door was a mess. Take more than a lawnmower to revive that land. I heard the oil and natural gas people was cleaning up old oil sites, and it wouldn't cost us a plug nickel. Oh yes, sir, it was quite a revival. The whole church showed up, want to make a playground for the kids. It sure is a blessing.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers and our guest, Burns Hargis, the president at Oklahoma State University. You've been the president for a while. What surprised you most about this role?
I think the way Ann and I have been received. We've been overwhelmed at the open arms that people have received us with, and it really makes the job a lot easier because if we're excited, they're excited, anything's possible, and we see just an unlimited potential for this university, and so I was surprised. I thought I'd have much more of a skeptical reception than I've had.
How's Ann taken to her role as first cowgirl?
Oh, she's a kid in a candy store. She is having the best time. And Ann is a University of Texas graduate. She got a Latin degree and a math degree. And I always said we went to Rome and she couldn't talk to anybody. That's a joke. But Ann's an intellectually curious person, and everybody loves her anyway, and including yours truly. But she goes around and visits the university. She's teaching yoga to the faculty and staff there. Ann's a yoga instructor. And they love that. She loves going to these. Any comprehensive university has so much going on around that even people there don't know about. And so we have the luxury of going to these different areas. And she came home the other night and had been to the entomology department and seen all these bugs, the bug zoo, and just had a wonderful time. There's a wonderful botanical gardens at Oklahoma State. I mean, obviously we know a little something about growing things. And so on. And it's so important to have that. I mean, it really does double your effectiveness.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that you've been meeting with students. You've been a hands-on president, having hamburgers with them and all. What do you learn in your meetings with students that helps you in your job?
Well, I learned at the bank that if you really wanted to know what's going on with your customers and even the bank, talk to the tellers. They're on the front line. They're the people that are meeting your customers. They have a tremendous impact on the success of your operation. And the same thing's true on a college campus with the students. If you need to listen to them. After all, if they weren't there, none of us would be there. There's no point in it. Yeah. And so this has to be a great experience for them. And a university is not immune to having some arcane regulations or practices which need to be tweaked or even trashed. And you really find that. And I've learned so much so that we have a new tradition we're starting called Burgers with Burns. And they're at Eskimo Joe's, and we get a kind of a focus group, but it's totally randomly selected. We don't ask the dean to handpick any students or anybody else. It's completely random. Might be freshmen, might be a mix of classes. It's from lots of different colleges.
How often do you do that?
We're trying to do it about once a month, and it's at Eskimo Joe's, so it's never hard to get the students to Eskimo Joe's. And they get a T-shirt with I might say, a very unflattering caricature of me on it, and we just talk. And it starts out the same, and sooner or later you'll start coming on some real gems where you can improve it. Everywhere I walk on campus, I'll stop. How's it going? Tell me about what you're doing. What are you in? Do you like it? What don't you like? And it's just important.
Let me jump back in here. Who was president of OSU when you were there, and did you ever meet him?
Yes, I had two presidents. There was Oliver Wilhelm, in whose house we live today, only he never lived in it. Yeah. It was built when he was president. And then Bob Comm became president, I think, when I was a junior, and was there for many years. He and Maxine are great models for us. As is, of course, Jim and Ann Halligan are right there in town and have been great counselors to us as we've moved into this new world.
In the middle of a political race, I think.
Yes, he is. He's running against former Judge Bob Murphy for the state senate.
Lawyer, banker, television host, which of those three endeavors has helped prepare you the most for this job?
Well, as I said, I don't know that anything's the most, but being a lawyer, you're in the persuasion business. You have to learn the facts and then you have to use those facts, hopefully, to persuade people to your point of view. Well, you do that several times a day, every day at a university. As a banker, as I said earlier, this is a big business, and it's got to be managed well, and it's got to be managed fairly and legally, which is no small matter. And then I think the television part is just part of communication. You can know everything in the world, but if you can't communicate, it's almost useless. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you all are in the communication business. You know that better than anybody. And so being on television for 15 years and getting comfortable with these things, somebody always said to me, treat that camera like a head of a person, and that lens is the eyes that you talk through. Just understanding some of those nuances of communication, I think, are very important.
Came out of John Marshall High School. How'd you select Oklahoma State?
Friends. We had moved here when I was a junior, right before my junior year of high school. And there were a number of really people I liked and respected a lot that were going to Oklahoma State. I considered very carefully going to OU. A lot of our friends went to OU, and I really enjoyed my time at OU. I never lived here long enough to develop the animosity between the two schools that kind of got developed. But in the end, I was just very comfortable at OSU. And I hear that all the time. I mean, when you ask people, well, how'd you end up here? A lot of times it's, well, my folks went here, or there's something like that. Or there's some unique school they're interested in, hotel and restaurant management, for example, fire protection, whatever it is. And by the way, we are the kind of fire protection center for the United States. I don't know if everybody really realizes that.
But a lot of our firefighters are from there. Yeah.
Well, and it's more people designing buildings to be fire protected and so on. Anyway, they're there for that. But a lot of them come, and I just talked to one this weekend. They came on campus, and it just felt right to them. And in the end, that's really the best. That's really the best gauge.
Do you find yourself ever flashing back to when you were a student, as you face an issue or some geographic position around?
Not so much an issue, but it is a strange experience, Mick, as you walk down the same path you did when you were a student. Mm-hmm. I remember. I mean, some of them you don't want to remember, frankly. But and one I would just soon not remember, but it was profound. I remember exactly where I was, and I was walking there about a week ago, along in front of the Union, and I remember so well, it's still very emotional to me, a girl running by me, and she was just bawling, and she said, the president's been shot, the president's been shot. And I turned around and ran back to my fraternity house, and we had this little 12-inch TV screen. I know most people think we didn't have TVs then, but we had a little TV screen, and we all huddled around. Of course, it was the assassination of John Kennedy. So you remember that exactly where I was. It was right in front of that south door of the Union by the Atherton Hotel. And then as you walk to Blue Key events or your graduation or any of the places, football games, the tailgating, it's just a wonderful environment. When you think about it, it never gets any better than that. I mean, people say, well, these are the best 4 years of your life. Well, I hope that's the next 4 years for you, but these are it's a great time in a person's life.
If you're sitting down with a parent or chatting with them somewhere, and how do you answer the question, why OSU?
Well, we've got a lot of good, even great universities in this state and certainly in this country. So I don't presume that we've got any corner on that. What I can tell them is that we are going to really, we are going to treat your student in a way that, and give them the experience that allows them to find their passion. If we can do that, if we can help them find their passion, what they want to do, because if you want to do it, you'll do it well. And then give them the skills, the tools, and the education to do that, then they're going to be successful in life. And so we want to develop the whole person. We want to be sure that they have all the academic experience and education necessary for them to be successful, but we want to develop their personalities. We want to develop their experiences so that the combination of that will ensure their success. And you have to be deliberate about that. It doesn't just happen. You've got to really encourage these people. The other thing is, you see it with athletes who have not had an academic background that you would like all the time, and how intense mentoring can change that experience. We need that same mentoring for all students.
Burns, thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it, Nick.
Thank you so
With
much.
you, Kent.
We have run out of time. We'll have to have Burns back on a future show, but Burns obviously putting Oklahoma State in good hands. We'll be back with a final word right after this.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Mick Cornett and Kent Myers, we're here to wrap up a show with Oklahoma State University President Burns Hargis.
Yeah, thanks to Burns for giving his time for 2 shows. He's a terrific individual, a good friend, and he's just doing wonderful things at Stillwater. The university's lucky to have him.
We have a couple of websites that we'd like you to check out. One is how you can get more information on Oklahoma State University, and specifically Burns Hargis in his bio. You can go to okstate.edu. And if you'd like more information on The Verdict, or would like to suggest a future show topic or guest that you'd like us to have on, then go to our website, theverdict.tv. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.